Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I hope all of you had a very good Christmas, and we've got the new year coming up here. So hopefully we'll have a very good, safe New Year's, and we can start off a 2022 with a great year. Right now, I gotta tell you guys, I am in the middle of getting all of my decals and stuff ready. I'm not sure if you can see it. I got stuff laying out all over here. That's all different decals for the boat, and just trying to finish up my wrap. It seems like every year this time of year there's a scramble to get everything ready for the upcoming tournament season, which for me starts the last week of January. So I've still got a little bit of time, but man, it goes fast. So I'm down here working on that. Got myself a cold beer for the day. This is it's called Places and Spaces. It's a new one by Central Waters, which, as you guys know, is one of my absolute favorites. They're from just outside of my local town here, but they're getting very large. They actually have opened up a location down in Milwaukee and started brewing some beers out of there, and that's where this Places and Spaces is out of. So if you live in the Milwaukee area and you're looking for a fantastic beer, this is one of the best ones they've done. It's a double dry hopped oat cream IPA. It's phenomenal. I'm very much enjoying it. So if you're lucky enough to live in the Milwaukee area, go on down there, check them out, and you can pick up some Places and Spaces. And if you're watching Central Waters, I need a sponsor for the show. All right, guys. So what is today's episode about? I want to talk about what's going on right now. We've got an extremely warm winter for the most part of the country. Now, here in Wisconsin, I won't say it's been like super unusually warm. It has been on the warm side, where we've had a lot of days, around 32, a little bit above 32, a little bit below 32. We have not yet had a real good cold blast of air, which we normally have this time of year. So it's still slightly above normal. But down south, guys, you guys are experiencing really crazy winter weather. I mean, water temps on a lot of places are still in the 60s or upper 50s. Fish just have not set up really good in the winter patterns. So because of that, I've been getting a lot of comments from guys asking for some help as to how to go about being more successful on their home bodies of water. So I figured I'd talk about it today and try to kind of break down the situation, right? So because we've had this really warm water, we haven't had the same transition from summer to fall to winter that we normally should have had by now. So with our warm water period, or our warmer water that we're having right now, what it's done is it's prevented the fish from getting into their true wintering areas. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but the issue is normally this time of year, if you have super cold water, or what would normally be the coldest water that you're going to have for the year, the fish are going to be in their wintering locations, and they normally get grouped up. As an example, I'll talk about my chickens. Yesterday, we got some snowfall. We had some falling temperatures, and the chickens, which I let roam the yard, were just huddled up all day long. Didn't move, just stayed right by each other, trying to get warmth off each other, and never moved. They literally sat in the same place all day long. And I like to think of bass as being the same, regardless of the species you're after. The colder the water gets, to me, it seems like they get more condensed and they get grouped up even tighter. Well, because we've got water temps that are still in the 60s, which are like, depending on where you're at, that's like fall temperatures. You've got a lot of fish that are still very much in a transition mode. They are not being forced down into those condensed wintering areas. So you've got a lot of fish that are still on the bank. You've got a lot of fish that have moved out deep, and you've got fish that are sitting in between. The bait fish isn't in their normal wintering areas. So you've got fish that are just spread out. Some are still feeding on bluegill, some are feeding on shad, some are doing whatever. You've still got a lot of crayfish that are probably out I don't even know what happens with them. Normally, they go into hibernation mode once you get into low 50s. If you're on a lake that still doesn't have that water temp, my guess is they're still active, which is just another forage species that bass can now relate to, which is just going to spread them out even more. So, the question is, how do you utilize the weather we're having to your advantage? And I don't think there's a really good answer for that. I think we're just in a period of spread out fish, which is going to lead to tougher fishing. To counter that, my best advice to you guys out there, if you're still lucky enough to be able to head out on the water, is to fish quickly and cover a lot of water with moving baits. So I'm talking your lipless crankbaits, a spinner bait, chatterbait, swim baits, moving baits that will allow you to cover water. Now, I'm not saying you should be fishing super, super fast with those baits, but you want a moving bait that will allow you to cover water versus throwing, a jig or a Ned. I just feel like those are going to be much slower presentations, which work great this time of year when the fish are in their spots where they're supposed to be in the winter. And because they're not fully there yet, you can still get bit on those bottom baits, but it just doesn't seem like you're going to get the numbers that you may have had if the fish were schooled up in their wintering areas, because then you can beat them on the head with those bottom baits. Just not going to happen right now. So, what I recommend, sorry about that, guys. We're back here. My little guy Duke fell down, hurt himself. He's good to go. Anyway, so what we're getting at is this time of year, with this unusually warm weather, it's probably better for you guys to move around and try to intercept moving fish and fish that are still relatively active and up shallow versus trying to drag deep bait slow and not really have the number of fish that you'd have normally this time of year in those wintering locations. So, I think you want your moving baits. I'd be looking for transition zones. So your 45-degree banks, your channel swing banks, bluff ends could be really good. Just any sort of travel route, right? So you've got fish right now, probably some that are still moving back into the creeks when you do get one of those warm days. And you've probably got some fish that are still moving that have stayed shallow until now and are starting to move deeper. So your traditional fall, early winter transition areas should still be good this time of year. If you're on a lake with a bunch of weed, your green weed areas should still be good. If you've got any sort of current moving through, you still should find some fish that are related to current. The thing here is you just got to keep in mind, you're probably not going to run into a big group of fish. They're not grouped up yet. The weather has them spread out. So you just got to cover as much water as you can to try to capitalize on the handful of active fish that are still up. That's what I would be doing right now if I was not froze over solid. And I think, guys, you should be out enjoying the warm weather that you have, because at some point here, we're probably going to get a blast of cold weather, and you're going to be wishing we had the 60s and 70-degree weathers that we've had so far this year. So I hope this was helpful. Try to utilize this warm weather to your advantage. Get out on the water and enjoy it, because before you know it, you might be getting snow, you might be getting some ice, and you're just going to have probably tougher, colder winter fishing. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video. We'll see you tomorrow.